And the verdict is, surprise, surprise, guilty. Socrates. There are many reasons why I am not grieved, O men of Athens, at the vote of commendation. I expected it, and am only surprised that the votes are so nearly equal, for I had thought that the majority against me would have been far larger. But now, had 30 votes gone over to the other side, I should have been acquitted. He wanted them to remember this day and to regret it. At this point in the apology, we turn to the chilling sentencing phase. Athens isn't going to slap him on the wrist and let him go. The death sentence is proposed. But Socrates has a counter-proposal. And so he proposes death as the penalty. And what shall I propose on my part, O men of Athens? Clearly that which is my due. What would be a reward suitable to a poor man who is your benefactor and who desires leisure that he may instruct you? There can be no reward so fitting as maintenance in the Prytaneum. The Prytaneum refers literally to the home fires. Each Greek community had a sacred hearth enclosed in a building called the Prytaneum, which served as a kind of community dining hall. Socrates says he belongs right there at the heart of the city, keeping the philosophical fires safely burning. That's not exactly a punishment, is it? In fact, he's saying this to piss them off even more. Xenophon reports that they insisted on a more serious counterproposal from him, to which he suggested paying a small fine. What they were probably expecting was a repentant convict who would prefer to be exiled. Socrates has no plans on leaving. I will not say of myself that I deserve any evil or propose any penalty. Why should I? Because I am afraid of the penalty of death which Meletus proposes? When I do not know whether death is a good or an evil, why should I propose a penalty which would certainly be an evil? Shall I say imprisonment? And why should I live in prison and be the slave of the magistrates of the year of the 11? Or shall the penalty be a fine and imprisonment until the fine is paid? There is the same objection. I should have to lie in prison for money I have none and cannot pay. And if I say exile, this may possibly be the penalty which you will affix, I must indeed be blinded by the love of life, if I am so irrational as to expect that when you, who are my own citizens, cannot endure my discourses and words, and have found them so grievous and odious that you will have no more of them, others are likely to endure me. No, indeed, men of Athens, that is not very likely. And what a life should I lead at my age, wandering from city to city, ever changing my place of exile, and always being driven out. For I am quite sure that wherever I go, there as here, the young men will flock to me. And if I drive them away, their elders will drive me out at their request. And if I let them come, their fathers and friends will drive me out for their sakes. Someone will say, yes, Socrates, but cannot you hold your tongue? And then you may go into a foreign city, and no one will interfere with you. Now I have great difficulty in making you understand my answer to this. For if I tell you that to do as you say would be a disobedience to the God, and therefore that I cannot hold my tongue, you will not believe that I daily to discourse about virtue and of those other things about which you hear me examining myself and others is the greatest good of man, and that the unexamined life is not worth living. You are still less likely to believe me. Big sentence there. Let's parse the last half of it. In the Socratic view, the greatest good of man, a gigantic claim, is discourse about virtue and other things. We'll label it philosophy for short. This includes self-examination and critical examination of everything and everybody through discourse, dialectic. And that this examination of life is what makes life worth living. So much is packed into that idea. A seed for theories of education, critical thinking, psychoanalysis, the life of contemplation versus material accumulation and consumption, and so much more. It's all packed into that idea. It begs a question. Is the unexamined life not worth living? Are we better off not knowing, not looking for, keeping our blinders safely affixed, letting others do the thinking for us? It is a question that continues to vex. If we want to impress our educated friends, we shake our heads no in self-congratulation about how wise we all are. But Socrates wants us to really think about the stakes, because if you are totally serious about philosophy as a way of life, and you're convinced about its worthiness, then you risk poverty, suspicion, alienation, imprisonment, even death. Well, in the sentencing phase, the vote to execute Socrates was 360 to 140, way more lopsided than the vote to convict him. Socrates, as we say, is toast. Next, we will see his response to that news.